Folks, we are in a very interesting time right now here in the Midwest. I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't seen anything like this in the past 10 years. Probably since 2012 I haven't seen this. Guys, we're having what I consider to be one of the longest holding on summers for our lawns this year, right? We're in September now. We're a week away from fall, 6 days actually, and we still have hot temperatures on the horizon for the next 2-3 weeks even. Now, it's been that way the past 4 weeks. We've had temperatures in the 80s and 90s. We did dip down a little bit at the beginning of the month, but on top of that, we've had no rain. And that's really the biggest problem right now. Because normally right now, we start getting a little bit of rain to improve the lawns, if you will, to pull them out of their summertime funk, their summertime dormancy period. They wake them back up in time for the fall so that we can start prepping to get the lawns ready for aeration overseed time. This year, that's not the case. We're having a little bit of an Indian summer effect. We've had no rain for 4 weeks. It's been hot, 70s, 80s, 90s in some cases the last 4 weeks. We did have a cool dip at the beginning of the month, but we came back up, and the temperatures are not going down in the foreseeable future, at least for the next 2 weeks, right? And on top of that, we've had no rain. We've had no rain in that period. So it's been a very stressful time if you're a cool season lawn owner here in Northwest Indiana or anywhere in the surrounding area with similar conditions. As a matter of fact, here's a picture of a graph just to show you guys what I'm talking about. We are experiencing an abnormally dry drought in our area, and because of that, the lawns are starting to reflect on it. It's honestly been really, really bad. Now, as somebody who works professionally in the lawn care field, this affects us a little bit because our primary service this time of year is fertilization, weed control, and mowing. Now, not so much on the fertilization front, but the mowing front. It's been tough for us, and I'm sure any of you guys out there can probably relate to this, especially if you're also in charge of the fertilization and the weed control, which means you're more liable for the well-being of how those properties look. You're kind of putting that a step back if you attempt to go out and mow the lawns during this stressful time. Because what can happen is when you mow a lawn, when it's dry like this, you're actually more prone to crush the crowns of the grass plant. They're going to die. And if you're using heavy machinery like we are, we use all ride-on mowers in our business, that's actually going to crush the crowns of the grass plant. They're going to die, and then what you're going to notice are some tire marks in the lawn. Now, is this that detrimental? Not really. As soon as rain comes in, it'll recover over time, but it's not very appealing to look at, and it's just something to be aware of. So on the mowing front, a lot of mowing guys are going to be suffering, at least right now, unless they just show up and cut them, right? Anyway, I know I'm rambling. I understand. But that's what we've been dealing with. It's been a very, very dry time. We've had no rain. We've had hot temperatures, and it doesn't look to be changing for the next couple of weeks. It's going to stay like that for the rest of the month. Now, why do I bring this up? I bring this up because normally this time of year, we're getting some rain, we're getting some cool temperatures, and we have ideal conditions to do our annual fall aeration and seedings, which honestly, I haven't started yet. And I know a lot of bigger companies don't have a choice, but being that my company's smaller, I do have a choice to wait a little bit. And I decided to do that because I wanted to see if we would get some rain, and we indeed didn't. Now, why is that important? Well, if you're doing mechanical aeration and overseedings, which I often don't advise doing anymore if you don't have to, some cases I do recommend mechanical interference. You need to be able to pull a good plug. And you're not going to be able to do that when the ground is dry like this, which means you're going to have to also irrigate if you're not irrigating. If you're aerating a non-irrigated lawn, it's going to be a nightmare because you're not going to be able to pull as deep of a plug effortlessly if the ground is bone dry. So in a lot of situations where this is the case, you're not able to get in there and intervene with some irrigation on your part. Maybe you have a big lawn with a demanding job and you don't have time to get out there and water it. This is honestly a situation where I would even advise skipping the seed this year because sure, we can do seedings in October, but the problem with that is we're not going to have enough time for the seed to grow in before that frost comes in, before the winter effects come in, stunting those new seedlings as they come up. That's why right now is a good time, because we get at least 6 to 8 weeks for the seed to germinate and establish. If you're using bluegrass and fescue, of course. If you're using rye, it's going to be much quicker, about 3 weeks. But having those extra 3 to 4 weeks even are helpful with ryegrass as well. But yeah, anybody who wanted to overseed with fescue and bluegrass this year, that just doesn't seem to be a promising bet. As good as it looks, you need more time, and this year we're just not going to have it, especially if conditions aren't there. So the response to that might be, number one, wait until October, until temperatures come down. Wait until the ground is moist from the rain. Again, if you're not able to get out there and intervene with an irrigation system, you don't have the time to do it, I understand. What you would want to do in this situation is maybe get out there with a ryegrass seed mix, perennial rye. Get that down early October, and that should grow in 3 to 4 weeks and look pretty good going into the winter. We can't do that oftentimes as professionals, though. The problem with that is we get temperatures going up, then we get these temperatures up, we got no rain, and customers don't water. So a lot of the seed we put out is going to be wasted. And that's a problem sometimes, because we can't guarantee we're going to fix the problems if the seed doesn't have water. So with that being said, what can we do in this situation? Well, I'm happy you guys asked, because we do have a new product available on jakethelawnkid.net for anybody out there in the DIY lawn care space looking to help their lawn during this time if they're not able to irrigate. And that is Hydrate Liquid Cure. It's a liquid formulated product from our good friends over at Greene County Fertilizer. You could spray it out on your lawn at 3 ounces per thousand. You could do it with a backpack sprayer. You could do it with an orthodilane spray. You can get the ready-to-use spray formulation. You can get the 32 quarts. You can get the gallons. You can get any formulation for a DIYer and spray it out any way you like. You could spray it out of the Spray Buddy if you want. The options are endless. You can get out there this weekend to get it down on your drought-stressed lawn. Do that every 4 weeks until the end of the season, and watch how your grass will miraculously improve despite not having optimal irrigation practices. Again, if you're not able to, it'll really help you. It's a good product to get down. You can find that at jakethelawnkid.net. As far as fertilizer goes during this time, again, as a DIYer, it's a little different. You can probably wait until the rain comes back, but it wouldn't hurt. I'm just telling you from experience. If you wanted to put in some fertilizer, you could totally do that. Your fall fertilizer, you can get it in there. It's just going to sit there. Again, assuming you're not really going to mow the lawn right now, it's just going to sit there. And as soon as optimal conditions return, it's going to start working. As soon as that plant starts working up. That's the cool thing about it. So if you want to spray your fall fertilizer mix out, you can totally do that. So if you want to use like 2800 N-Charge or 0025 Green Kick, if you want to give the plant a little help in these times of stress, that's a good way to go. And all of that, again, is on jakethelawnkid.net. We'll leave that linked right here for those of you who want to try that out. Super great line of products to mix together. It's a killer combination to get your lawn through these times of stress. And then once that's done, you have a decision to make. You can either live with the existing land you have, which presents you another option. Maybe you want to get down a pre-emergent for henbit, which is a winter annual weed. You want to avoid that from coming up. You want to avoid the poa annua. You can get down a prodiamine application for that right now instead of doing an overseeding. That'll help. Or you can aerate and overseed. And the cool thing is the options for aerate is limitless. You can either mechanically aerate, you could do liquid aerate, which we do carry on jakethelawnkid.net. You could do both of them together, which, by the way, that's probably the best way to go if your lawn is relatively thin. If it's sufficiently thick, you could probably get away with the liquid aeration, no problem.